managing public corporations and things like that. And then let's forget that until the telecommunication was opened up for private sector participation. That was when we now had a quantum leap, in terms of efficiency, in that sector. So definitely, when you look at what is happening with the Dangote refinery, you see a lot of movements within the pricing sector, the pricing of, petrol pump price. So definitely, you can logically argue that that is the best way to go. But, there is equally a caveat too. You have to look at most of the privatization process has not been transparent. And often it comes with a lot of baggages, that is being borne by the ordinary Nigerians and people who are the end users of the product or services which they render. When you look at the power sector, for instance, the discos have not been super efficient. And at some point, you still have federal government bringing in money to support them. So it's a viable option if they put it on sale. But then we need to have people who have the capacity to manage such enterprise, come on board. Not the kind of situation we have in the power sector where you now have people that are largely inefficient and you have all this kind of glitches and all this non-functional, situation we have where one day you have power, another day you have, all manners of, glitches and, things that are not that are not helping the economy at all. So it's a very good option, really, that is if federal government can and willing, to open up the sales, to transparently and to people who have capacity.
Is it that the Nigerian government cannot manage these refineries?
Over time, it has been proven that, government have no hand. Government should have no hand in business. What government should do is to create enabling environment for businesses to thrive. That has always been that is the trend in market economy. You allow private sectors to come in, the forces of demand and supply determine, the pricing. Then the government create enabling environment like, power, infrastructure, create, good, fiscal policies that allow for credit, to be given to long-term businesses, So those are some of those things, road infrastructure to allow for access. That is what government is meant to do. Create those avenues that allow for people to invest their money, to do business, employ people, and you tax them. So that is the modern role of government. It's not, or owning enterprise. And a very good example is what you see in what is happening in NNPCL. A bit of, loosening has happened there. Where you bring in some private sector, so that's why you have it as a limited now. So you see that there's a kind of movement that is happening within that place, that a positive movement happening, where you allow for more players to come into the industry. So that is to tell you that it's not as if a government can, but it cannot, from our experience, manage it efficiently. This is quite peculiar to Nigeria. In other climes, you have a situation where government runs businesses efficiently. Aramco, for instance, Saudi Arabia, equivalent of NNPC, that we used to have. It's owned solely by, government, majorly by government, and it is run efficiently and is making gains and plowing resources into, social lives of people. You understand? But we don't have that here, but maybe because of the kind of, transparency infrastructure that is necessary to keep them in check. We don't really have it here.
All right, let's just look at Petra, and Petron is also saying that the refineries will begin loading this week, and then also suggested that government should sell. How do you see these two, statements?
Well, that is what they suggested in the first instance is the long-term plan. What you have is they've started loading now. This is a short-term measure that, okay, this is how you should go about it so that you can have efficiency in the distribution system. So that is the way I see it. What he's saying is that, look, put the refinery in shape, then sell it off. You understand? That is more of a long-term thing. It might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen next tomorrow. But government should have it at the back of its mind that it cannot continue to manage those refineries. Don't forget, for several years, those refineries have been moribund. You know, they just came on stream simply because NMPCL was tinkered with. That is why you have a bit of movements that we are talking about now. You understand? So that is the long-term thing. So the short-term is the second one they are asking government to do, you know, especially in the area of getting the fuel to people in the immediacy, you know.
All right, well, let's move to another conversation. But before that, I'll just like to reiterate and say that we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. And it's on Facebook at Flow FM NG and on YouTube at Flow FM 927. You can log on to any of these apps and you can get in on the live action happening in the studio right now. Now, moving on. The Labour Party LP is saying that they can win 2027 poll without the merger. That's merger between them and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and as well as Kwankwaso. They can win in the upcoming elections in 2027 without that merger. And they were talking about the performance in 2023 elections and that it demonstrated its potential to independently challenge and unseat the ruling All Progressives Congress.
Well, the spokesman of the Labour Party happens to be a very good friend of mine, Obiora Ifo, I suppose. You know, it's a very brilliant chap. But, you know, if he were here right now, I'll ask him if maybe you have a lot of somnambulists, you know, within their ranks, people who sleepwalk. Because, you know, because if it's not an act of sleepwalking, you know, they should see exactly what is happening to Labour Party in the last couple of months, thereabout. And then if that is not enough, if it's not clear enough, they should look towards the only state where they have a Labour Party governor, where the last local government election was won by an opposition party, not Labour Party itself, you know, and the governor is okay with it. And then you have a few days ago, we talked about people defecting from Labour Party. You understand? And of course, what is their relationship with the real catalyst? You know, the person that brought a soul into Labour Party, Peter Obi and the Obedient Movement. You know, so in terms of political movement, you know, you see the Obedient Movement even moving far more than Labour Party. Labour Party has been sitting down and just been, you know, it's been swallowed by its own controversy, it's contrived by itself. You know, so, you know, the bases are not there for making that claim, making that projection. But all the same, you know, it is not unusual for political parties, you know, to make such claim. Of course, on paper, you know, considering what happened in the last election, you know, of course, they have an impressive CV. But that happened. We know why that happened. There was a groundswell of movement into Labour Party on account of one movement particularly. So you don't have that happening right now. And, you know, unless something changes, you know, for me, like I said, I think it's likely need to sleepwalking. And, you know, when you sleepwalk, you do a lot of things like you wake up in the middle of the night, pee in the wardrobe, walk out the window and things like that. So you have things like that happening. Well, that was quite amusing, really, honestly.
So are you saying that the Obedient Movement is now separate from the Labour Party?
Yeah, from all intents and purposes, that's what it looks like. You know, you see, you know, if you follow the movement, especially up north, those guys have not been quiet. They've been doing a lot of talking. And of course, you see Peter Obi, you know, moving around and not even talking about parties, not even talking about Labour Party. You understand? You need to look at all his comments. He mentions Labour Party sparingly. You know, so that tells you that something really is happening. And of course, you've been hearing this talk about proposed mergers. You know, you see him, you know, the Adamawa breakfast.
I was going to mention
you understand?
That.
You know, so
is that not the reason why? Like, is that not where the rumor is stemming from?
Well, probably. And early this morning, I was reading that he was in Niger State to see the former governor of Niger State, Babangida Aliyu. You know, who was bereaved, who was bereaved recently. You know, he was there too, and we are these are stakeholders in PDP. You understand? So. You know, and of course, the other day he was in Jigawa State to see the governor, you know, of course, bereavement too. But of course, you know, when you see things like that happening, you know, politicians don't just do things. They don't just go on a visit. You know, they already have a plan and they work towards that plan. So when you see them happening, you know, happen to see them for breakfast, they go on commiseration, they go and congratulate you on certain one or two things and things like that, or pay you a courtesy visit. These things are not just ordinary. It's a way of trying to create a rapprochement, create a coalition kind of. And in all these instances, like I'm saying, there hasn't been any talk about Obi does not appear to be carrying Labour Party, as an identity. He's gone there as an individual person. So that is what I'm saying. That is what normal Nigerians are saying.
Now, if you perceive it that way, what does that say about his commitment to the Labour Party in terms of party affiliations now in person of Peter Obi?
Well, you see, like I have often said here, political parties in Nigeria are just a vehicle for getting into office. The constitution provides that you must be part of a political party before you can get elected. Before you can even aspire, to public office. You understand? So it is not an ideological based vehicle that we have in South Africa, ANC. It's about a movement, it's about a commitment to certain principles and philosophies. You understand? It's not like the Democrats, it's not like the Republican that you have in the US. So it's a different ball game that we have here. So you have people that they have their personal conviction that might even be opposed to the party, but because they need that party to get into power, they go and register in that party, and they get elected, and you see them doing something different entirely. And maybe as soon as the election gets closer, and they find that suddenly they realize that he's there with a strange bedfellows, he ports to a different party entirely. So it is not unusual to see that kind of. It's not as if it is salutary, but that is just the situation we find ourselves. A lot of effort was made into making Labour Party. If you ask me, a lot of effort was made into making Labour Party different during the 2023 election. Build principles into it, create avenues to have more people come in. But all of a sudden, Nigeria happened to the Labour Party. And they started having power squabbles.
Now, when you say principles, embedded into Labour Party, can you kindly explain, knowing fully well all of the crises rocking the Labour Party, from financial misappropriation, allegations of financial misappropriation amongst some of the party leaders. So, what are the principles embedded into the Labour Party?
Ordinarily, Labour Party was created by it's an organ within the NLC. The political bureau within NLC.
Nicholas, please hold on. Let's try and take this comment.
Okay.
Good morning to you. Hello, good morning. All right, please go ahead. Don't forget, it's 0807 777 9927. You can text us on WhatsApp your reaction, or you can call in live into the studio. Please, Nicholas.
It was created by a political directorate within the NLC. You understand? So essentially, it was meant to be a people-oriented party. You understand? Now, it suited Peter Obi to come in, because he's always talking about from consumption to production and issues of social infrastructure, helping the ordinary people put food on the table. So it suited his ideology. So that was why he moved in there. So now, ordinarily, that should have been, then of course, considering the fact that it had an established mother, that is a mother that birthed it, which has proper infrastructure like NLC. It's been there for years. It's set up by law. So ordinarily, you should see a more thorough, a more systematized, structure within the Labour Party, flowing from how NLC operates. You have seasonal elections where a Labour Party comes on board and there is no rancor. You would have expected that to happen in Labour Party. But all of a sudden, you now started having several controversies about whether this person's tenure has ended. First, you have the case of this old man that said he's the real party.
Julius Sabure?
No, Julius Sabure versus this other man, one elderly man. Yeah, the name skipped my mind.
Oh, the Lagos man.
Exactly. So you have that. On the one hand, it created a lot of schism. Then, of course,
the judge?
Huh?
Do you mean Bode George?
No, not Bode George.
No.
I mean a particular who claimed that he's the parallel chairman
of the Labour Party.
Labour Party. Yeah,
The
name will come back to me. It's skipped me. So you had that controversy. Then from there, Abure, his tenure ended, and then you started having all manners of talks and things like that. Currently, I think the appeal court has restated him, has confirmed him as the substantive national chairman of the party. So for most people, they had lost confidence in him, especially when you have all these controversies about funds management and things like that. So that is the thing. So you see, it's like you had a brand. You understand? The brand, it is in the product, what it serves the people. The moment the taste of what serves the people changes, then you have people losing interest in it. Oh, it's like the old things. So that is what you have. That's how I can summarize what is happening. Yeah, sorry, my talk is a bit zigzag, but I'm just trying to give you the entire picture of what is happening, what is making it look like it has lost that touch, within the ordinary people, who rooted for Labour Party in the 2023 election.
Let's also dig further. If we look at still on the crisis within the Labour Party and this possible conversation about a merger, do you think that with all the personalities involved within the Labour Party, look at Julius Abure and then the other factions within the Labour Party, you see that of what's the name, the woman leader of the Labour Party, Aisha Yusufu. And then you look at the PDP structure and then other political parties possible for a merger. Do you think that this will unsettle these politicians that are playing the game of politics within the Labour Party and other political parties?
Let us, straight ahead. Mergers are not strange, especially when you have when you are getting close to election period. You see a lot of mergers, people merging, people forming a coalition, people, you have that kind of a thing. So what Labour Party is saying is that it is willing, it can, that is on its own, it can, no, but it's open to a lot of dialogue, dialogue with other parties. But it coming as an entity and as a force is what I don't see as at now. Because you see, ordinarily, apart from the fact that when it releases a statement, you understand, the only thing that comes to your mind is Labour Party of 2023. That is all. But you don't have the idea that what comes to your mind, what you won't feel is the vibe that you get from prominent politicians being part of that particular setup. You understand? Now, Labour Party is talking, but it's not Obi that is talking. It is not the obedient movement that is talking. It is not other coalition forces who are non-partisan people, but are fully in support of the obedient movement. They are not part of the Labour thing. Nobody is really talking in terms of. In fact, a few days ago, this other man, what's his name? The placeholder for Peter Obi before his deputy came on board, Okukwe. Yeah, you heard what Doyo Okukwe said, that he's very sure that Obi will decamp from that place, from the party. You understand? These were the shakers and movers of Labour Party when it started in 2020. That is at the inception, when it really made that movement across the country. So if people like him can be talking like that, then of course you have Kenneth Okonkwo. Kenneth Okonkwo talking. He's not talking about Labour Party anymore. Some of these guys are gravitating towards the obedience movement. Nobody knows where the obedience movement is going to go. You understand? Maybe they are still in the Labour Party. Maybe they could resolve the situation, but that is politics for you. It's not predictable. But what we are seeing right now is a Labour Party that is just like a shell of its old self. That is what you're saying. For me, it's not as if I'm happy saying that, because I am looking forward to a situation where we have a party that is grounded in principles, politics, principle, and have a particular philosophy with which you recognize it. Not just a vehicle for putting someone in office. No. I'm looking for a much more systematized kind of political party system in Nigeria.
Okay, well, let's hope that happens.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. All right. Well, moving to this conversation, it's about a new virus that the federal government is tightening monitoring to quarantine China passengers.
Okay, China again.
China, yes. This was something that happened in the previous virus that was widespread. It started from China and it came, spread all across the world.
Avian flu. Yeah.
Yeah. And this one is called the human metapneumovirus. But basically, it has led to overcrowded hospitals and emergency measures and public concerns in China. But now our federal government is tightening monitoring.
Let us say this. Nigeria has a pedigree of managing pandemics. From Ebola virus to the last pandemic we have. Let me say we have an appreciable pedigree of managing pandemics. But that haven't been said. I think that there was something that I was actually hoping the federal government would have done after the last COVID-19 pandemics, which is to midwife the technologies that was developed into proper ways of doing things. Apart from the fact that you have this issue of virtual meetings and things like that coming to stay. The other technologies are not, like all those, all the sanitation technologies that you have, all the schools building, like you have some in Polytechnic. I don't see them in play, and that is where I have my fears. You understand? We tend to after one managing a crisis, lessons gained from there, we don't put it into place. We don't try to manage. We don't try to, there is no carryover of it. You understand? And it really affected COVID-19 at the initial stages. Because if you look at the way we managed Ebola virus, that even the United States of America had to commend Nigeria, had to even send people to come and study how we were able to do it. I think the minister then, left some measures and said that they are going to mainstream it into policies and laws so that we can always manage crises like this. But when COVID-19 came, what APC was trying to do was to put a distance between it and the previous PDP. So there was a lot of gaps, within that process. But I am hoping that, of course, it's from APC to APC this time around, that those lessons are, taken up, all those protocols are dusted up and, firmed up and put in place to really check this, because I'm not sure Nigeria can, the economy as it is right now, can't survive another pandemic.
And not just Nigeria,
the global economy. No, because we are still, the effect of COVID-19 is still there. It's still there. We are still trying to, come out of it. So I don't think the Nigerian economy, the world economy, can really survive another pandemic, honestly. Yeah.
And how seriously do you think the world, global, on the global stage, how do you think other countries are seeing or perceiving China and they're taking seriously this new virus?
I have always said this. As much as I like Chinese innovations, Chinese intervention in global politics and the geopolitical economy, but one has to be very careful about that country. You see, yes, regardless of what you say about the West, there is this free market enterprise and democratic practice and culture that allows for questioning that you don't have in China. So that may account for why all these pandemics seems to be coming from there, because there are no proper checks. You can't question the government there. It's not as open as we have in the West. You understand? So there is no room for enough dissent to challenge certain outcomes. You don't have it. The moment the party, the one party system, it's a one party system thing. So the moment they are moving in that direction, if you say things contrary, you are seen as a dissident. You understand? And they clamp down heavily on you. That is the kind of culture they have there. And for me, I think that may, because especially in technology, in science is about openness, about transparency, it's about questioning. You understand? So it's not just about following the normal procedure of science. It's about being open to critique. So why must it always come from China? I think they should ask themselves that question. So if there are suspicion from a place like America, for instance, they should ask themselves why. So this is my take, really. But of course we know, things like this are far more complex. We are talking of real science. You understand? But I'm just looking at, how I viewed as a journalist, how I viewed on the basis of what has been happening that I have followed very well. You understand? So why must it always be from there? And I think it's a question they need to ask.
That's what I'm also asking. That do you think world leaders are asking the Chinese government the right questions? When they meet at the G20 summit, all of these summit that they go to.
Oh, I believe
it's been one too many.
I've been probed.
I believe they are. But you see, one thing you must equally understand, that China is a world power. It's a significant power within global geopolitics and economy. It has massive war chest in terms of resources, money, and of course it has very good defense system, militarily speaking. So it can, its voice is respected. So if it says don't move into our space, the world has to respect that. You understand? So that is why it's so difficult to say you can muscle them, you can sanction them. It's very difficult, to do that. So it could offset a lot of things if they become angry. It's not in the world's interest to anger China. That is the simple truth. So that is where you have the difficulty. So the only time you have serious opposition to the way they do things was under Trump first tenure. In fact, at the time, it was even calling COVID, the Chinese virus, So, we should have more of that, courageous leaders coming out to tell them that they have to tighten up, the country. So don't make themselves a threat to the world all the time.
Because that's what it's looking like, one too many anyway. But, I mean, we can commend the federal government for implementing preventive measures already, before it gets anywhere close anyway. So, well.
Thank you, Nicholas, for your time this morning. That's the size of our program for this morning, the Headline News Review. We're back tomorrow. God willing. Thank you for your take on some of these national stories.
Thank you.
The position expressed is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7, but solely is expressed by Nicholas Onwarunoye. Join us tomorrow again, 8 to 8:30. My name is Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
Have a beautiful week.